Want to call to order our Brushy Creek Regional Utility Authority Board meeting. Today is Wednesday, August 25th, 2021. The time is now 6:03 p.m., and we'll get started with our roll call.
President Thompson,
Present.
Vice President Duffy, Secretary Flores,
Here.
Director Anderson,
Here.
Director Kirkland, Director Baker.
Item 3 on our agenda tonight is citizen communication. Any citizen wishing to speak during citizen communication regarding an item on or off the agenda may do so after completing the required registration card. All comments must be no more than 3 minutes in length. Any comments regarding items not posted on the agenda may not be discussed or responded to by the BCRUA board per state law. Do we have anybody scheduled to speak?
No one's scheduled to speak.
Okay, thank you. Item 4 is approval of the minutes. 4A, consider approval of the BCRUA meeting minutes for July 28th, 2021.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 5 is staff reports. 5A, consider an update from the general manager regarding the BCRUA 36-inch underwater pipeline and Phase 1D water treatment expansion projects.
Thank you, Madam President. I have previously given several updates on our 36-inch underwater pipeline, and it's been about 8 months now since the initial break, so we are making some progress in some areas. I want to give you an update because you're going to be seeing some recommendations come forward with us, from us in the coming months. So as a reminder, the pipeline broke in December and was finally repaired in May. And after that repair was made, we hired U.S. underwater inspection team to do an inspection of the entire pipeline. They did most of the pipeline. They couldn't do some of the part that was buried too deep for them to inspect without a lot of clearing. But they did not find anything, any additional leaks or issues. They did have a couple of recommendations that we will be moving forward with, but nothing that seemed to affect the continued use of the pipeline. We then came to you to hire a forensics engineering company to do some review of the pipe break and help determine the root cause of the break. And they have been working. We actually got an update from them yesterday verbally, and we think we'll have a written report in the next few days. And we will come back and share those results with you once we have a chance to read it and digest it. And this is important, the discussion of the 36-inch water line, as we discuss further expansions of the water treatment plant, because this now is our only avenue to bring water to the water treatment plant. So we have recently completed the Phase 1C expansion of the water treatment plant, and that increased the capacity to 32.5 million gallons per day. The next phase of the water treatment plant is Phase 1D, which would increase the capacity to 41.9 MGD. And Phase 1D was originally planned to be completed concurrent with the deep water intake construction being completed. But now we've asked our engineer, Walker Partners, to develop a scope of work to study the possibility of accelerating Phase 1D due to increasing Leander demands. The scope would determine the maximum capacity of the floating intake barge and raw water line alternatives for delivering that capacity. For example, the study would consider installing a parallel pipeline adjacent to the existing 36-diameter underwater pipeline. And we will plan to, once we've worked through what the operating committee has looked at the scope and hammered out the cost estimate, we will bring a supplemental amendment to the board with that scope in September. And once the Walker Partners scope and the WJE report are completed, we will review the results with the operating committee and report back to the board with recommendations and findings. And if anyone has any questions, I'd be glad to try to answer them, and our engineer, Aaron Archer, is here as well.
Any discussion from the board? Nope. Thank you, Ms. Bondi. We can move on to item 6A, resolution. Consider a resolution approving the BCRUA annual operating budget for fiscal year 2021 through 2022, subject to the approval of the participating cities.
Thank you, Madam President. If you will turn to item 6A in your agenda, there's a summary sheet that lays out the budget for FY 2021, which we're in right now, and FY 2022, which will start October 1st. And this compares in different categories what the costs were and what they are proposed to be, and what the change is. There is a proposed increase on the budget. The overall budget would be a 6.3% increase from $15,799,201 to $16,789,824. So total $990,493. The big difference this year from last year is the budget is based on 12.55 million gallons per day projected use, which is a 32% increase in flow. All three cities are taking more water, and most of the costs, over 50% of the cost, is due to the cost of the increased power and chemicals and sludge to treat that extra amount of water. Really the only other major item that's different this year is there were two emergency response plans required for water utilities to complete. And one is required by the Environmental Protection Agency that was from some regulations passed in 2018. The primary focus on source water protection. And so, and each of your cities had to do this as well. First, there was a risk and resiliency analysis, and then the emergency response plan developed to address those risks. And there's about $145,000 of costs associated with BCRUA responding to some of the risks that were identified. One of the main ones was backflow contamination. We have so many take points between BCRUA and the cities. We're going to establish a more uniform method of controlling flow and backflow prevention. And then just more related to cybersecurity, and although we are well protected from a cybersecurity point of view, the recommendation was to really well manage that. We should have more of a centralized and focused approach. Right now, our operations superintendent really does that as one of his many responsibilities. He's really good at it. We rely on him. But we are going to contract with a SCADA consultant to come in once a week and really get us more focused, develop better standard operating procedures, and other SCADA-related improvements, and some security. And then the other one, which you all are probably pretty aware of, is Texas legislature passed Senate Bill 3, and that requires every water utility to submit an emergency preparedness plan by March of 2022. That's really related to the grid failure and the failure of many water utilities. So we've got a budget in there for that. There are a few other items, but those are really the main ones. And I'd be happy to answer any questions or provide additional detail if you'd like.
I had just one question. The adjustment for the reserve, is that because we're just replenishing money that perhaps we used for the repair of the line?
The reserve adjustment, that's really just a 30% reserve budget that is required from each city. So we're just replenishing the reserve based on the increase, the delta in budget that was from this year.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion or questions? All right. Do we have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
So moved. Second. It was so subtle.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 And any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Agenda item 6B, consider a resolution authorizing the president to execute an engagement letter with Weaver and Tidwell LLP for annual financial audit services.
Thank you, Madam President. If you'll turn to item 6B, you'll see a summary there that identifies that BCRUA's contract for audit services expired with the FY 2021 financial audit. And so we formed a team with members from all 3 cities, the financial staff, and submitted a request for qualifications for a new financial auditor. And the review committee selected representatives from each city. Well, I guess they were the representatives, but we did receive 7 responses. And the 4 firms listed on the summary sheet were determined by the committee to be the most responsive. These respondents were top-notch, and it was a difficult decision for the committee to pick the best respondents. So the committee members completed a grading sheet that graded each respondent on qualifications and availability, proposed staff, similar project experience, and project schedule. And we are a very complex organization financially, not only the 3 cities, the 3 operating budgets, but all of our loans. And so we really wanted a skilled firm to be able to handle that. And so once all the rating sheets were collected and tabulated, then the top 2 scoring firms were interviewed on July 28th. And then the committee selected Weaver and Tidwell as the highest ranked submittal. Then we entered negotiations with Weaver and Tidwell and have agreed to a 1-year engagement with up to 3 additional 1-year extensions. And we would take those engagement letters to the board annually during the 4-year contract. The cost for the engagement will be $34,300, and that's only a 4% increase from our previous auditor. I need to give kudos to Karen Springerly from City of Cedar Park, from the purchasing department. She managed the whole process and did a great job, and we feel like we are selecting the best candidate based on her well-defined process. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
How many years has Weaver and Tidwell already done the audit?
They were our last auditor, but that we had different auditors prior to that, so 4 years.
So they've done the previous 4 years, or just?
They did the previous 4 years.
Okay. So we went through this whole process and now doing it for potentially 4 more years.
Yes, and
Okay.
but however, we required that they have a different auditor than the one that we had before.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion on this item? All right. I make a motion, we approve this resolution.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Move on to agenda items 6C. Consider a resolution approving the financing agreement between the Brushy Creek Regional Utility Authority, Inc. and other matters in connection therewith related to the sale of 40 million Brushy Creek Regional Utility Authority, Inc. City of Leander, Texas contract revenue bonds. Proposed Series 2021 Brushy Creek RUA Regional Water Treatment and Distribution Project.
Thank you, Madam President. If you'll turn to item 6C in your packet, there's a summary sheet. And I will also refer to the next item, item 6D, even though we'll want you to vote on each one individually. I'll talk about them together. So and may I point out that we have Richard Donahue from MPC, who's MPH, who's Cedar Park's bond counsel in the audience, and Gregory Miller, who's Leander's bond counsel from Bickerstaff, to answer the hard questions. So the Texas Water Development Board formally approved BCRUA's loan for construction of Phase 2 Brushy Creek Regional Water Treatment Plant and Distribution Project on July 22nd. I went to the meeting, and they were very complimentary about our project. They are really focusing on regionalization as saving the, not only saving the customers, reducing their rates, but also better managed systems instead of individual ones that can be higher risk. But so the project is for the Phase 2 deep water intake with a capacity of 145 million gallons per day. And it also includes the Phase 1D construction of the treatment expansion. We had previously approved the engineering design cost in the 2018 SWIFT loan. So this is just for construction. And the electrical utility improvements for the Phase 2 raw water pump station, which is not inconsequential, and bid and construction phase services. So we have a breakdown of the 3 cities and how much they're contributing towards the total. And you'll see Cedar Park has a 2021 low-interest loan, and Leander is planning 3 different loans, 2021, and then 2022 and 2023. But these 2 items really just focus on the 2021 portion. Then below that, I have summary of the timeline. The Water Development Board moves really fast, so the meeting schedule is somewhat condensed. So today, the board is considering these resolutions. Cedar Park will be considering their loan resolution tomorrow, and Leander next week on the 2nd. And then after that, we need to get these finance agreements to the Water Development Board by September 8th. And then the Water Development Board begins their pricing and and then we'll let you know what they get in terms of bond pricing at that time. And then they'll close the bonds. And then in the October meeting, which we've moved up a week, I'll bring bond resolutions back to the board to approve for those bonds that have been issued. And then again, those will go to Cedar Park and the Leander City Councils, and we've already worked out the dates with those cities. There's more detail in the write-up for how each city is funding each part of their of the project, but I'd be happy to answer any questions. These financing agreements were developed by the Water Development Board, so we didn't have a lot of discretion, but our wise bond counsel did work with the Water Development Board, reviewed them, gave them some comments that were accepted and are included in these agreements. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, or if you want to answer them of our bond counsel, that's fine too.
I don't have any questions. Do we have any other discussion? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve 6C?
So moved.
And I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And any opposed? All right, and then we'll move on to 6D. I know you already walked through it, but consider a resolution approving a financing agreement between the Brushy Creek Regional Utility Authority, Inc., and other matters in connection therewith related to the sale of $75,310 Brushy Creek Regional Utility Authority, Inc., City of Cedar Park, Texas Contract Revenue Bonds, Brushy Creek RUA Regional Water Treatment and Distribution Project, Series 2021. And I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second, all right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion carries 6C and 6D. All right, we are now to agenda item 7, which is our closing comments. We'll start with our Vice President, Ms. Ann Duffy. Any closing comments?
Well, thank you. It's always nice when a budget passes really easily. You've been around. But I appreciate all the ongoing conversation because I know there's a lot going on as far as the water needs and just the different things. So I appreciate all y'all's cogent conversations and moving forward.
Thank you. All right, Secretary Renee Flores.
No comments. Good night.
Citizen Director Jason Anderson.
I just wanted to say that I'm just a water guy. I'm just really glad that there's a lot of people that understand all this financial bond stuff because it's not me. So thankful. Thank you for all you do, those of you that do that. Thanks.
And lastly is me, I guess. Yeah. Thank you guys for coming out tonight to Round Rock, and thank you for all the work, Karen, you and your team, and everybody here is doing. I really appreciate it, and let's have a good night. All right, we're adjourned.